What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast. It's me, your host. A great week ahead of us. Very, very interesting week. First thing is first, though. This week, El Camino was released on Netflix. El Camino is a Breaking Bad movie. If you've watched Breaking Bad the past few weeks, I've been watching it. I finished it. It was incredible. And then it just happened to be that this movie came out at perfect timing. You know, right whenever I was fresh off of Breaking Bad, El Camino comes out, and I watched it. And to be honest, you know, I was pretty happy with it. A lot of people gave it bad reviews. A lot of people said some shit about it. Of course, my mom disliked it, but she said it was slow. Everyone said it was slow, but I mean, like, what the fuck do you want to happen? But anyway, I thought it was great. I'm not going to talk about it too in detail yet because, like, you know, I don't want to spoil shit for people. But if you haven't watched it yet, definitely watch it. It's worth it. But I thought that was great. We just got back from a crazy vacation. Me and my wife went to Portland and Seattle and Mount Rainier and drove all around up there. Did a lot of cool shit. So in a couple weeks, we're going to sit down and do a podcast about it. Usually whenever we go tour places, we like to Google tours that they do in the city, whether it be like a coffee tour or wild shit like that. But in Portland, they did a underground, the debauchery and bizarre underground of Portland. And basically it was just like a tour ran by some girl who tells us all about all the fucked up shit that happened around Portland. You know, hookers, gambling, murdering, something called Shanghaiing, you know, just a lot of wild shit. But that'll be coming up soon. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, I got some brand new merchandise out, and it is killer. No pun intended. But if you look at my website, I'llCallYouRightBack.com, there is some fantastic merchandise on there. And, a new thing I'm doing, free shipping with all orders. You know what I mean? Ran a poll on Instagram. You know, I got my fucking head chewed off because I thought maybe people wanted to see a cheaper t-shirt. But if you got a cheaper t-shirt, then you got to add shipping at the end. So, you know, I just work it all in together. So I'll Call You Right Back now offers free shipping. You're welcome. Yeah, happy Halloween. Anyway, but definitely some cool merchandise. Limited run, you know, I'm not made of money. I can't get 1,000 pieces, so there's limited pieces. But they are on I'llCallYouRightBack.com. Check them out. I have 2 bags of coffee left. 2 bags of the firest coffee to ever come out of the city. You already know that. The Wake the Dead roast, the Wake the Dead roast by I'll Call You Right Back. And it was pretty damn good if I say so myself. So 2 more bags of that. Slide in the DMs if you want to pick any of those up. But another thing before we get to the guest this week, please, if you are listening right now and you feel like doing something nice for me and you don't want to buy any merchandise, slide on into your pocket. Pick up that old cellular device, go to whatever app you are listening to this on, hit subscribe, and then if you're on the Apple Podcast app, let me get a rate and review. That's all I'm asking you people. If you're listening to this right now and you enjoy it, you know, I do put in some work for this shit. I mean, if you're not buying merchandise or anything like that, I'm not asking you to pay for anything or do anything. Just slide over and give me a rate and review. It takes 5 minutes, not even. But it's a big help for me. It does big things for me. But other than that, I appreciate everything. You know, this is 91 episodes. That's insane to me. 91 weeks in a row, some with multiple weeks. I'm probably on like 96 episodes technically. But, I mean, who's counting? So officially, 91 episodes. It's a fucking big deal to me. I'm working on the 100th guest. I want to be completely transparent with you guys. I'm trying to find someone good. You know what I mean? I'm trying to narrow down someone that is going to be, you know, wild. I'm trying to get like, you know, someone. I'm not going to name many people that I'm trying to dip, but I'm trying. I promise I'm trying. So keep checking back. I'll be releasing some details as they come along. But the reason everyone is here, we have a very, very interesting guest this week. So my guest this week, his name is Zach Brown. Zach Brown is an art, and it's not the chicken fried Zach Brown. This Zach Brown is a fantastic artist from outside of Pittsburgh. He's from Mars, PA, 31 years old. And I'll tell you completely honestly, I had no idea who this was, but as I was editing at Black Forge Coffee House, I'm editing this podcast with Bobby Cranmer, and I just keep looking up and I see this painting. There's a painting in Black Forge now. It's called Mama Death, and it's this woman with a titty out, and it's very, very like eerie looking. But I'm editing in this booth and I keep looking up and I just see this thing staring at me, and it's so damn good. Like the actual piece is 9 foot tall, and it is fascinating. Like the detail in it is incredible. So I texted Ashley and I was like, Ashley, who did this piece that you got you got in Black Forge? Jesus, I can't even talk. That you have in Black Forge. But she texted me back. She said it's a dude named Zach Brown. He's local. So I messaged him and I said, hey man, I do this podcast, yada, yada, give him the pitch. And he was like, yeah, I'm down to do it. So, I look at his artwork and it's very, very like, I don't know. It's hard for me to describe it. I feel like it was hard he described it, but I don't know how he described it. But to me, it's like, I see some eerie shit with it. That's why I kind of I wanted to talk to him, because a lot of his artwork has like a very eerie vibe to it. A very, very, subconscious, like bizarre type vibe to it. But everything about the artwork is fantastic. The detail and all the, it's up my alley. Like it appeals to me. I love looking at it. Every piece that he had in his studio was fantastic. And, I look at his artwork and I thought he was going to be like, some creeper that's just like in a dark room with a candle, just like, holding this little like gothic, I don't know what I thought, but it was not what I got whenever I went to the schoolhouse that Zach owns down in Homestead. And honestly, the dude was fantastic. He is one of the most interesting people that I've interviewed. Like I said, I thought he was going to be super quiet, kind of just like very, very like held back, but like, he's talking to me about listening to the Monkees, talking about the Partridge Family, Mr. Ed, all these show tunes, Gilligan's Island, such a bright, bright, like bubbly type person, like just very, very energetic, very, very, he had so much energy. It was just like oozing out of him. So I was just like, Jesus, like, this is going to be an interesting episode. I judged what he would be like from his artwork. I don't know. I guess I set myself up for an interesting night, because whenever I got there, it just wasn't like that. And I was kind of intimidated. I was like, this dude talks more than I do, which is a lot from, as you know, but, I was like, damn, this is going to be interesting, how I could like, kind of like direct this, and how I can adapt to someone that is not usually, I usually don't talk to people that are more talkative than me. As you guys know, like I cut people off all day, but Zach had so much like information and like wisdom and like just interesting, anecdotes and everything just coming out of his mouth every second. I was trying to just like keep it all reined in, you know what I mean? And I don't know. It was just it was a fun episode to do. It was very interesting. We jump everywhere. Like we're going left, right, up, down, behind you. And you never know what we're going to talk about next. But other than that, it's pretty interesting. Like he dropped some pretty interesting facts and little ideas that he has. And I was just trying to keep up with it. And soak it all in. It's the only person that I've ever talked to that mentioned, every person that he talked about in this episode, I had no idea who they were. So we're all learning right here. But it was fantastic. It goes along with with what the October month is bringing, and I'm happy to give it to you guys. So without further ado, episode 91 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Zach Brown.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast.
Well, I told my dad, like, I want to design furniture for IKEA when I grow up. And more so for a joke from my mother, my dad goes, well, Zach, you can't design furniture for IKEA. You're not Swedish. I'm like, oh, shit. God damn it.
The Swedes.
So I'm like, well, what I do know, I'm like, well, I know Jackson Pollock's a person. I know Andy Warhol's a person. Maybe if I start now, I can actually do this.
Yeah, and do some artwork. Now, were you, like, where were you learning this? Like, where were you learning of these people from? Like, through your parents?
It was kind of ubiquitous. I mean, it was here and there. Then growing up in Pittsburgh, Andy Warhol.
Yeah,
this is a
that's
thing.
true.
And I was aware of that. And well, my dad would have us do like splatter paintings, and he's like, "Oh, these are Jackson Pollock paintings and stuff."
Yeah.
And
Kind of just took off from there.
It was enjoyable, and it's just like, I don't know. It was one of those things where we were talking about when you first got here, like the narrowing of, when you start off young and anything's possible, and then you just start narrowing more as the decisions you make. Like, whether you spend, how much time you spend on something versus something else. And I just kind of really narrowed and zeroed line early on, maybe to my own detriment, but kind of just, I find something I like and I don't really deviate much from the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've been drinking essentially only gin for the past 8 years or so. I don't drink much.
You're a big fan of gin.
Well, I like gin, and then like
What kind?
I met my fiance 11 years ago, and I kind of decided early on when we were first dating, like, oh no, I like you. I'm gonna stick with this.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's either
it ain't
conviction.
broke, don't
It's either
fix it.
a nice way we could say is like strong conviction or just stubbornness.
Yeah. I'm stubborn too, though. I stick to what I stick to my habits. I'm a man of habits, for sure. But
Well, that's why quitting smoking has become a real problem.
that's what you're trying to.
Oh yeah. We do a big Halloween party here, and I'm on this robot dick that I get nicotine out of.
Yeah. Everyone's on them now.
Hey. Well, I was just hanging out with my friend's younger brother last night. He helped me find some of the teens that we were doing this documentary on, but some of them are quitting Juul by picking up cigarettes.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy world to see. Like,
Well, he says
what's
like he's
going on.
he's like I'm the one of the weirdos. Like, I'll be out at a party and I'll have a cigarette or two, but I'm really just
Yeah, like I had like friends in high school that were like crazy fitness guys, but if they would have like a couple drinks, they would just like bum a cigarette. But it's
yeah.
I'm about 5 years off cigarettes now. I smoked for about 7 or 8 years, and I ended up kicking it. But it was weird for me because one, I think I have an upper hand because I don't drink. So it's like,
that definitely is handy.
yeah, you know what I mean. Like
Unless
that,
you're at those AA meetings, because then they chain smoke like crazy.
I know, that's wild too. I always drive past.
They're
one.
just like mild
They need
uppers, like
something.
caffeine and
Yeah, it's
nicotine. It's like,
caffeine.
we
That's
gotta
what I
grab
was
a
gonna
coffee.
say.
It's like caffeine and nicotine. It's like I can't do fucking cocaine. I can't drink. I'm just gonna
Yeah, there's a
fucking just need
dude
some type of stimulant.
there's a dude that I worked at this gas station in high school, but I mean, you knew that people knew who he was, but he would just get like 3 Red Bulls,
Oh my goodness.
packs of cigarettes.
It's
And
just
you're
like,
I wonder
you're
if
gonna
that's even
shit yourself.
healthier.
You're gonna shit yourself.
I wonder if that's even healthier. But
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's healthier if you have more control over your life.
How long
and
you
some
been
more
trying to
agency.
quit?
Well, I quit for a year. I was living in this garage over in Lawrenceville right after I finished up grad school. And then I went to this artist residency. I mean, I'd bum a cigarette here and there when I was out drinking. I'm only really a social drinker and social smoker. I'm just extremely social.
Yeah,
That's
for
my
sure.
real problem. And then all the real fun bars are smoking bars here in Pittsburgh. It's
Yeah.
like, and I've been going to Gooski since I was 16, playing in bands. And the only thing I could do there while I was there was smoke cigarettes.
That's a good point.
And art school doesn't help much with that. But I will say, smoking cigarettes is if you're starting out in the art world or any type of like creative field, it's a great networking tool because like you don't
it's
know
social.
It's weird to go up to someone just like at an opening and just start hitting them up talking. Yeah, I mean you can, but that kind of naturally you need a bit of an artifice, like whether it's the podcast, the microphones
like
as
the
an artifice to talk to
for
someone.
sure.
The cigarette, you might not normally talk to the gallery owner, but if you're outside and they need a cigarette and you bum them
3 to
one,
5 minutes, you're just
you've got
out
a nice
there.
little. It's the elevator pitch.
Exactly.
You know?
That's a good point to think about. It's like
don't
social.
inhale, just puff it in and hold the cigarette,
I
and
didn't
you can
inhale.
still. That's a good networking tool.
Now, like, what else were you like in high school? You said you were in bands and shit like that. Now,
Yeah, I was in bands. I played with the Bubenheim brothers a lot. So we were in this band called. We went through different band names. We were the Brakemen, then the Resistors, and then became Briar Fox. And then Dave plays in Pet Clinic now, and then his brother plays in Meeting Important People. But we were coming up and playing with like. This is back when it was like Meeting of Important People, before Aaron was in them, and Denora and Lohio and these type of people. And that was like, and Lohio was like Greg Dutton and Liz, and so it came up with them. And now they're doing stuff with like Leanne Ford and all that type of stuff. And
Yeah.
they all have kids now and are, you know, fully vetted adults.
full adults now.
Well, it's a nice progression. They're very happy. It's good stuff.
That's good.
But we just went the other night and saw me and Puerto People play at the Thunderbird, and I hadn't been there since.
I've been hearing a lot about that place.
Well, it closed down for essentially 2 years, but I remember going back to it back in the day in Lawrenceville was very, very different then. And you could smoke, and there was a pool table, and it was a shitty little place, and it was tons of fun.
Yeah, I've never
But
been
now
there.
it's very big and nice, and they're getting, you know, big acts coming in. They're essentially taking over the place of what was that in the strip, the church that was the venue,
That was Altar Bar.
Altar Bar, yeah.
Yeah, they it's weird. I just walked past Altar Bar yesterday, and I was like, it's a church now. It's just weird because, like, you know, seeing all different bands there, and you're just like, crazy shit happened down in that basement.
Well, that's the thing is like sometimes you get back into smoking just because there's nothing else to do. And I was doing this arts residency at this like boarding school.
Yeah.
And I was off and staying with this younger calculus teacher there, and he was fresh out of school, and we just hang out and drink and smoke after the kids went to bed, and it was fun.
And that makes sense. I mean, like,
But then like the only thing that got out of my system was like I no longer smoked in the car anymore. I never smoked during the day. It was just drinking and talking and smoking all went hand in hand. So now trying to separate those.
yeah, I mean, like, it works for me because I don't, and like, I ended up getting sick of it. Like, it was to the point where, like,
It's like, damn it, why am I fucking do this?
well, I would smoke like a quarter of a cigarette and then just like put it out, and then I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just like wasting money anyway, and I wouldn't smoke like a shorted cigarette because they taste like shit.
Oh, it's because it tastes like an ashtray.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Well,
but-
then Aaron was never a fan because she'd have to kiss me, and I tasted like an ashtray.
yeah,
But the big thing is just like after I'd like quit for a period of time for the year, if I had tried to have a cigarette without drinking along without the cool, refreshing beverage
yeah,
to quench my palate, I'm just like, oh, this is.
yeah. There was nothing better in the world than a cigarette and a cold iced coffee in the morning.
Well-
I would. I do miss that sensation sometimes, but I really don't ever have cravings for cigarettes. But it's interesting because
Only when I've a little buzzed, I really crave
Yeah.
that. But it's the funny thing is like alcohol doesn't really make you not aware of the consequences. It just makes you care less.
Yeah, you
about
care
those.
less. That's
You care less about those consequences. Like I know this is wrong.
Yeah, it's
but
like-
I'm gonna. It's like with fast food when you're drunk. You're just like,
Yeah.
you know what?
like,
This
I
isn't
smoked,
a great.
I smoked
this-
8 cigarettes in 3 hours. Like, that's pretty terrible.
This
but
isn't
then-
a great decision, but you know what? If Jim Gaffigan does a bit about this with like fast food. He's like, you know, it's like looking at an ex-girlfriend. You drive by it and you're like, oh, I can't believe I ever
Yeah.
went out with you. I can't believe we were ever together. Like, I have so much more respect for myself now. And then you're like, well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm a little drunk. How you doing?
That is a funny bit. Now I mean, like, if you're drawn and things like that in the beginning, like, how do you, did you know back then that you wanted to be an artist, like a full-time?
Yeah, well, that's the goal, and it's been a tricky road trying to figure out how to. Money is tough. I always tell. We talk about different types of addiction,
Yeah.
like nicotine and this stuff. This like the adrenaline junkies are interesting and odd to me. It's like doing things I have no real interest in. And I always tell people who are like, oh no, you just gotta go skydiving once, you gotta try bungee jumping once. I'm like, have you ever tried checking your bank account?
Yeah.
If you want a real adrenaline rush, just like, oh boy.
I know,
I
after a
always tell people, like,
weekend-
I don't have to do extreme sports, because like if the most extreme thing I decided to do with my life and the biggest risk I've taken is like deciding to be an artist full time, and that provides enough, you know, anxiety and adrenaline to last a lifetime.
That makes sense. I mean, it got to be like. I mean, it got to be interesting. It's like
It's
creating.
a tightrope walk. My buddy Luke, he's this fantastic designer, and he's working for a great company. He's making this furniture, but it's eating his soul alive.
Yeah.
And just like it has more to do with some of the personalities at the company, but he's like, man, I want to do furniture. I want to do this. I think I can do it independent. I'm like, all right, man. Well, you gotta start coming with me to all the different openings and stuff and start networking, because the same people who buy artwork are the same people who get
Buy
custom
nice
furniture
furniture, yeah.
and like this type of thing. And you get to know all the people. And like Pittsburgh's essentially a small town masquerading as a big city, so it's easy enough to start. If you start going
you'll get
all the
there.
time, you start to know all these people. And the
Circles
nice thing
are
is you don't have
small.
to, and you don't have to fake it. People are actually really great, and you can just like sincerely hang out with
If you
them.
take a couple minutes to like get to know people.
Yeah.
Now, your style, like what would you like? Would you say that you have a certain style? Like to the untrained eye, you know, I feel like that your stuff. I feel like if there was 10 pieces on the wall, and you
could pick out one
yours,
of mine.
because like I don't know, yours are so vivid and like. They're very interesting. So I'll be honest with you. The reason that I wanted to talk to you was, October is obviously like Halloween and shit.
Hey,
like
we're in
that.
spooky season,
We're
full
in spooky
swing.
season, and like the
I'm
first.
trying to do the 31 and 31. Watch a horror movie.
I see. I try that every year, but I can never do it. I can never get through it all. But I get up there and watch a good bit for October.
You go back through your old favorites and all this
Yeah,
type
you
of
got
stuff.
to old favorites like Idle Hands. Like you got to go back to that. But I see your
Night of the
artwork.
Creeps. That's my old favorite.
Night of the Creeps.
Ooh, it's a good one.
You ever watch The Monster Squad?
Oh yeah, I got Aaron to watch it for the first time the other night.
I have a whole leg sleeve of it.
Well, we also, speaking of the detective from Night of the Creeps, he's also in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and we watched that last night. It's like
That's
3
true.
more days till Halloween.
Fred Decker's a wild dude.
Halloween.
That's I enjoy Halloween movies. I enjoy them. We were talking.
I have
about,
to say the third one's my favorite. I'm not much for the slashers.
Yeah.
The slasher films tend to bore me, other than the first and the last Scream movie.
Oh, I
Because they're
literally-
somewhat self-aware, because he's coming off of New Nightmare, so he has this kind of like self-aware stint to it.
Scream is hands down my favorite slasher of all time.
Yeah,
that's why I made
it's
all the
great.
shirts and stuff that
Yeah.
that I just put out. But your artwork, I think is like very vivid, but it also has like an eerie vibe to it to me.
Well, that's just an extension of my Catholic guilt creeping
your
in there.
Catholic guilt creeping in. But like I see all this stuff, and I was looking at it at Black Forge. I saw that Mama Death painting, and I was like, that's pretty bizarre. It's pretty eerie looking, and I figured like, I like talking to artists and like learning about how.
There's an interesting story about that painting and her younger brother who was living here at the time.
Yeah.
So that's my friend's longtime girlfriend, and probably will be wife someday. They just bought a home together, so it's somewhat inevitable at some point.
Yeah.
Unless she
in the photo.
Yeah, in the painting.
painting, I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
and it's somewhat inevitable unless she kills him and buries him beneath the floorboards.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm doing this. Her boobies out. Gotta get the boobily in there.
Yeah.
But it's her brother who is living here, and I'd be in there working on it, and he's like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
He's doing well for himself in music now and stuff.
That's good.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
That's real good.
But no, I think we were talking about like narrowing earlier. Style's a bit like that. You want to arrive at something, but you don't want to put too much of artifice to it. But it's like, okay, if you just put a canvas from someone, like do anything. It's kind of tough to know where to start, because you could literally do anything.
Yeah.
Jack White talks about this when he like was putting together White Stripes and this type of thing. He's like, all right, here's my limitations. We're just doing black, white, and red. That's our aesthetic. Guitar and drums. What can I do with this?
Yeah.
And sometimes setting up limitations actually, well, it's like necessity is mother invention. You give yourself some limitations and a certain framework to work in. You can really push around and play with that, and even, twist that around, and it's about the slow growth and how you move and progress, and it kind of starts to follow a line.
Now, what did your work look like in high school? Like, what were you?
Oddly enough, some similar themes. It was always when I was in high school, it was a lot more about like youth rebellion, but combined with like occult and Catholicism. So I was doing like, I did this series of like boys in private school uniforms with like gold leaf switchblades and halos, and then like a bunch of lambs leaping around with like cigarettes hanging out of their mouths, and
That's
like
pretty sick.
and then like different, and then I just put them together in kind of like teenage 10 commandments of like, thou shalt steal your rival's girl, thou shalt have a good night on Friday, kill a snitch, this type of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like
But it was still
Blacktop
somewhat-
Jungle type shit.
It was still kind of like a similar vein of what it is a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's grown. It's definitely matured. I mean, there's some artists out there that still like. That's the other thing. Is some of the artists I was really into when I was younger, like Anthony Goycochea and Hernan Bass, but they're like, they're out of school, and they're at that time they're probably closer to our age, but they're still doing art about like adolescence in high school. I'm like, and now as an adolescent and in high school, like I deeply enjoyed it. It was tons of fun. It was made for
appealed to
me.
you.
But then as I got older, I'm like, well, fucking A, I'm not going to be fucking 30 and doing art about teenagers. Like, hell, like Blink-182's like new album that came out is like, oh, you're going to do a song about like hung up on teenage romance and want to date a goth girl? Like, who the fuck are you singing for?
Yeah, I can't listen to any new Blink-182. Terrible. But I mean, like,
I thought it was pretty terrible back in the day, but even though I never directly listened to it, it was always in the peripherals. So I find myself having an odd nostalgia for it, just because, like, although I didn't listen to it then, it was always around.
It will be Blink-182 is arguably one of the most pivotal bands for people of our generation. Whether you're not, if you think about it, think about how many.
Well, we have to. I mean, they were kind of at the height of pop punk.
Yeah.
And you have to look at the things that lead up to this. And if we look at like the Northern California scene and like people who even paid their dues but dabbling in the pop punk stuff was like The Offspring, or
Yeah,
we even
for
talk
sure.
about Green Day who like cut their teeth in with that Northern scene there.
Yeah.
But then like pop has always been a bit of an element in punk, whether you're talking about like the Dickies or I mean, it's just like even the Buzzcocks have a more of a pop element to their harmonies, and
I've never listened to one of these people.
Oh.
Never one of them.
Well, it's just like charting pop punk and through the ages, because like, no man, you gotta be like, it's like, but then like I hang out at like Goose Keys, I'm just like, sometimes like I think it's good to have the punk rock attitude and that DIY, and like you gotta do things for yourself and take the different tact and more of a left-hand path. But man, if you're 40 and you still got the same studded belt on, I don't know if you're true to the scene or if you're stunted.
Yeah, you're stunted.
Now,
for
as
sure.
a fan of like Peter Pan, I have like many annotated copies of Peter Pan where I've gone in and written in my own things and put in my own watercolor illustrations in it. But it's one of those things where it's like, you gotta have some boyish charm. It's just like, you might be intrigued by the boy, but at some point you gotta back it up.
Yeah.
And not just be sort of like, oh man, it's just like fucking shit.
It is weird that they're still kind of doing the same shit that they are. It weirds me out whenever I listen to like.
Well, it feels like it's like when you're punking you're younger, it's like, well, I can't listen to this because somehow I'm, even though no one's watching, betraying my tribe.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's like, I mean, we see because of the internet, like extreme tribalism, and like, that's the odd thing is like when it's kind of like a Joseph Campbell type thing. When you're young, you're with your family. You leave your family, you find your tribe. Then the ultimate goal is to leave that tribe, go into the wilderness, find yourself, and bring back what you've learned to your family and tribe. So you come back changed. I mean, this is the classic thing. You go in, you find someone that kind of is like, I mean, this is Star Wars, this is King Arthur, this is all this shit.
Yeah.
But the goal is to be like, go to your ends of what you what like fucking scares you.
Yeah.
And that's going to change you. And once you get there, or like you shouldn't go directly towards everything that scares you. Like, don't like fucking steer into the light post just because like, oh, that scares me.
Yeah.
But like, like what do you want that terrifies you? And like, either you're going to find out that like you're not as strong as you thought you were and you're humbled, or you're stronger than you thought you were, but you're still humbled because you now know your limitations even more.
That's a good point too. That's pretty interesting. Now, wow. That's real interesting.
Sorry, I didn't mean to give you too much pause on that.
That's all right.
I'm
That's
bumping
all
my
right.
face on this thing.
Now, what is now? When did you? Let me rewind this a little bit. I feel like we're going all over this place. So,
I have a tendency to be tangential in the conversation.
All right. That's all right. I am too. I'm just trying. I mean, everything is interesting that we're talking about. I want to try to put reins on it. Now, I'm curious to know how someone like yourself goes from being, what was your plan in high school as far as like, did you have a plan as far as going to like school after? Like, did you have any sort of like security type plan, or where you're just like, I'm going to be a professional artist. This is what's going to happen.
Well, I can give you the honest answer, the nice answer.
Give me the honest one.
So when I was in middle school, so my brother, he's a painter and he's doing well for himself right now with paintings, but he has cerebral palsy.
Okay.
And I'm the eldest kid in my family. And I mentioned earlier, I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be an artist.
Yeah.
So my parents took me out of Mars and they put me in a Catholic school for a bit. And I did not fit in there very well at all.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of there, asked to leave, or not requested to reattend. So I'm thrown back into Mars and back in middle school, and already in kind of a high anxiety point and different things, and thinking about like, because getting kicked out of school, you start to think about like failure and success and these different things.
Yeah.
So I'm like starting to think about like, okay, what is and like fucking, you're just a mess of hormones then too.
That's true.
Half my day was just trying to hide boners, but the other half of the day was like, fuck, what is my life gonna look like? What am I gonna be? I'm doing art. I want to do art. I want to be this. What the fuck am I? And because like everything's fucking ambiguous when you're that age, and it freaked me the fuck out. Like, if I want to be an artist, like, I've got responsibilities. I've got to be at some point, some way in my life, have enough of my shit together to like be able to look after my brother.
Yeah.
And that fucking terrified me. And I freaked out, and I just would pull like a Huckleberry Finn and just like fucking run away from school and hang out in the woods.
Yeah.
Which was to put my fucking family through a loop. And I went to reform school as a whole thing. But after that, I was like, okay, well, you could worry all the fucking time. And reform school helped a good bit with this because, like, saw some kids with some real fucking problems. I'm like, shit. Well, I could worry all the time, or I could just start fucking. Not that I was the most responsible kid, but like, just like, all right, if you're gonna do this, try not to worry all the time about doing it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of dead set from there, even more. That
Were you just pumping out work still, like steady?
I mean, I'd stay up late at night and like flashlight and paint and do stuff in my room and like wax romantic and listen to terrible music and go on the roof of my house and look at the stars and you know, all the adolescent shit
Gain
that you're supposed to do.
inspiration from that,
Oh, angst, all the fun stuff, and like wander off to the graveyard, walk around, and be like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm just so alive right now.
I know. You know what I mean? You don't know how I feel.
You'll never know how I feel.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, that's the first time you're having feelings like that, is because you're fucking pumped full of like adolescence. And
Yeah,
it just
that's true.
you're like, love feels like crazy. Like horniness feels like a crazy thing because like, this is the first time you're getting these waves of adult emotion. Your frontal lobe isn't developed yet, so you have no way of really like processing it in a reasonable way. I honestly don't think I've retained any knowledge from middle school whatsoever, other than like how to be really good at like spotting a training bra and how to hide a boner.
That's funny.
But no, and then like high school, did art classes, did art classes outside the school, produce work, apply to different things.
Did you think that your high school had a good art?
No, we had a shit art program. We had a great art teacher.
Yeah.
Well, that's the crazy thing is like after my grade graduated, so like I went to RISD. My good friend, she went to Micah, and then my other friend got into both and went to CMU for design and art. And then the grade after us, kid fucking goes to Pratt, another kid goes to Parson, one girl even gets to fucking Cooper Union. So now my school, when I was there, they completely cut the budget for the art program. But after these 2 years, they start seeing all these fucking kids going to essentially art Ivies.
Yeah.
Coming on Mars, and they're like, well, we got a kid going to Penn State and like Duquesne and like, you know, some good state schools and stuff like this. A random person here and there going to CMU. But they're like, we're getting a lot of kids that are going to very reputable schools for art.
Yeah.
So they fucking threw some money at it. They built essentially an art wing. They had a photo lab, they had a whole digital art lab.
And that wasn't like that whenever you were
No.
Now, like, what kind of... Did you have, like, freedom to do what you wanted to do in art?
Well, that was the fun thing about having a great art teacher is she essentially treated the art courses like freshman art classes at college.
Yeah.
So there'd be research. You'd look at different artists. Could be a sculpture, sign, installation. She had us do installations, which was real groovy. You don't get that in most schools or most public schools or hell, Mars. You know. Then she got it approved so we could do these installations in the school in like different hallways, and we get a kind of a base assignment, and then kind of encouraged to move on from there. So a lot of it was like there was enough self-directed room to really dive into it.
Do whatever you wanted, really.
Well, I mean, within certain constraints.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to produce something at the end of it. But no, and in addition to that, she helped us when we were applying to schools, help us put our portfolios together. Sloan, she was a fucking champ. She's still there. She's a rad ass bitch.
That's cool though. I was never like the artistic type, so I feel like I didn't appreciate my art classes. Like,
right.
I make my own T-shirts. You know, I do design.
I mean, that's fun stuff.
Yeah, but like we had those screen printing classes, but for some reason I always took art. You know what I mean? I enjoy photography, screen printing. We had both of those options, but I always took the art option, and I don't understand why, because I feel like that it was never, you know, it was never really my thing. I never really had a good time painting and stuff like that, because I feel like that
you're an art appreciator and not practicer?
Yeah, exactly. Like
you were drawn to it.
Yeah, I was drawn to it. I loved it. I loved watching, you know, I had a real good, like, real good
maybe it
friends in
gave you
high
more
schools.
respect for the whole thing, seeing how the sausage is made.
1000% it does. And that's like why the podcast kind of does what it does. Like you know, like my goal is to be able to kind of expose the masses to the people that are doing cool things that basically I curate. Like, this is my way of curating what I don't talk to people that I don't want to talk to.
You seek out the groovy.
Well, yeah, I only talk to people of things that I find interesting, because like
it's
if it's
the
Gimchiest. I don't play video games, so like that's
one thing that I will always thank my parents for is
no video games.
I mean, we had like Math Blaster, but that was there's one time, I think it was like in middle school, my friend gave me like a video game to download. It was this whole thing, and I probably spent like months playing it. And I get to this whole level, I essentially have a beat, except for I just have to get out of this one cave, and there's a glitch in it, and the gate's not coming up, and I'm just like fucked. And then I'm just like, the only way to like get out of it is like restart the whole thing, and then I lose the whole thing I was doing, and I'm just like, what the fuck did I do for this last couple months? So I'm so invested in it. So after that, I'm just like, I'm not doing this again. I think it's tough for me to justify having anxiety and being busy with something that is not actually practical or producing something in my life.
Yeah.
So now if I'm going to relax, I'm completely unproductive. There's no performance productivity. It's like, I've got a huge VHS collection of terrible movies. I'm going to eat some junk food and watch something like that. Because most of the time I have to justify it with like painting. So books on tapes are a huge thing for me now, because like I don't have the time to just sit and read the way I used to.
But you could consume a different.
But I can listen to a book and
Now walk
paint.
me through I want to know your process. Like I feel like that. I mean, obviously, I can't even imagine what you're like working on things because like me just talking to you in 5 minutes, like you said, you're tangential. Like I don't like. How do you?
I'm tangential but stubborn. So there's this
That's good.
is part of the process.
I'm sure you get obsessive of what it is, but
Yeah.
like what's your process of like coming up with these like wild ass designs? Like my favorite pieces that I seen of yours on your website was I really love that scapegoat.
Oh,
I love
yeah,
the
yeah.
shadows one. And
That
I
was
love
a
the
fun
rats
one.
and the cats. And I enjoy all that, and like I look at that, and your stuff reminds me of like almost like True Detective-esque. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen True Detective?
Yeah, I mean, when you say True Detective, I'm thinking of like old smut true crime magazines.
No.
Because I have in the drawer over there, I've got a huge collection of those.
I'm talking about like True Detective as far as.
Oh, you're
like,
talking about like the cult imagery in that.
Yeah, the imagery of like that type of things, like
Well, these are kind of like humans respond very well to symbols.
Yeah,
These are kind of things that have been with us for forever.
yeah,
They did this study on rats that like you can pass down fear genetically, which is very interesting.
Say it again. You said a stage of rats.
A study on rats.
A
You can
study of
pass
rats.
down fear genetically. So essentially, they like have these rats. The parents essentially they put them in a cage, and through some aspect of the experiment, they release a citrus smell and then shock the rats.
Yeah,
These rats have babies. They separate the babies from the parents. Once they're a little bit more of age, they put these babies in a room. They release a citrus smell, and they fucking freak the fuck out.
really.
Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah, it's very very weird.
Now, I'm no scientist, so all the technical jargon escapes me. But the idea, I think that's the nice thing about being an artist is like you don't have to be a master of anything other than art.
Yeah, you don't.
You can just dabble with anything and
That's true.
become more dangerous through that because it's just have to realize that, or you're connecting different tangential things. I think maybe that's where it's at, where it's like, okay, so part of the tangential, we're back to the creative process.
Yeah,
So it's like kind of exposing yourself to a lot of different things, or like shower thoughts, or for me, it's less shower thoughts and driving thoughts.
Yeah.
Driving is a good way to just kind of like, your body's actively doing something. Some people can sit and meditate and just do that. For me, I kind of have to you need something you're busy with, like
where things just pop in, kind
they
of
pop
manifest
in and like
your brain.
brain starts to wander and you're starting to connect different things. And then the ideas I tend to go with is when there's like something about the idea that I can't really put verbally. And I'm a talker, I can run my fucking mouth.
Yeah.
But when I get to a point or cul-de-sac where it's just like, okay, this is where all these roads meet. I'm not sure what this is, but I definitely know what it looks like.
Yeah,
And that gets jotted down. That gets a thumbnail almost immediately because then the image kind of comes to me completely. And then I get excited about how to execute it. But I have a reward system for me. So like people ask all the time, like, oh, what's your favorite painting? I'm like, the next one the next one I want to do, because has all the potential in it. Maybe it's because my parents raised me up with like a strong work ethic or a certain thing, or at least enough reward and punishment that my big reward is I have to finish these to move on to the next thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of it starts to form these body work. So yearly I try to produce a new body of stuff, and they're kind of all in a vein or start to
Whenever
talk
you
to each
say
other.
a body is like almost like a collection of work.
Yeah.
Like your monsters.
Yeah, the monsters were the recent one, because like after I did the whole dead animal series I did, and that was like very like I've done fur and stuff before, but I was trying to do a lot of this trompe l'oeil work, and it was a little more technically demanding and kind of heavy, like looking at all these dead animals all the time. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have some fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do these monsters. I'm not gonna have a plan other than I'm gonna do 13 monsters and doing this way. And I had this triangle idea that kind of fit in with it, like these sleeping forms and kind of like the gatekeepers of sleep, and then these kind of like sentinels or tulpas or golems that kind of occupy that brain space. I was having a lot of night terrors and stuff that at times I was kind of like, these entities that kind of exist around. And then I found out I had the show I applied for it, and I found out I had the show at the PCA, and it was like, what was supposed
What
to be
is that?
the Pittsburgh Center for the Arts.
Okay.
And it was what was supposed to be a fun, relaxing series where I just play with materials and get to do some fun stuff with that. It quickly became a little less fun because it's like, oh, you got 5 months to do this in. And I was just like, oh,
And
16 new paintings in 5 months is a bit of a mad dash.
they
rush
give
on
you a
that.
number to fulfill? Or you
No,
tell-
I had that number. This was so
Yeah.
it was kind of like I was a little harder on myself than I needed to be. But like you gotta push yourself.
Yeah.
So so put that out, and so the next series I'm working on is gonna be an extension of that. But like some good things kind of came out after that. Like some galleries. It's a networking world. I had a show in Chicago showing these 3 lace pieces behind you.
Yeah.
And then I'm meeting up with like some good friends from grad school. They just had a baby. They're fantastic. They're delightful people. And she's an amazing painter in her own regard. But I'm literally crashing in the room that is going to be their baby's new room. And then we're talking about, and she's done some shows with this new gallery in New York. And then she's like, oh, well, you should talk with them. They'd be really into your stuff. Hit them up. They get back to me immediately. I was like, yeah, Danny told us about you. So I'm going on Wednesday for a show that I have some stuff there, and group shows leading up to the solo show in 2021, and putting together a new body of work for that. I'll probably show it here. Who knows? It's 2 years till that solo show. I might start working on it now, then also do another new body of work adjacent to that. I mean, that's the thing is like, when I was in school, my one friend Makoto, he was talking about like artists who like the lifestyle without the work element of it.
Yeah.
So it's like he calls them like rock star artists. He has a very thick Japanese accent that I won't do.
Yeah.
But I'm very tempted to do it because he's a great guy and it's very funny. But he's just like, no, everyone wants to, be an artist. Everyone wants to be a musician. Not everyone wants to deal with the reality of those situations. Of
Yeah,
like,
and all the shit behind it.
yeah, where it's like, do you want this? Do you really want this?
Yeah.
Do you want to go through this shit?
Now, this Monsters collection, like, how do you come up with that? Because essentially it's just like how would you describe it? They don't look like scary monsters. They look like altered human images.
Yeah, and some of them have the gloppy heads, and some of them are more human than others.
Yeah.
I think it was more so like material studies, but I really wanted, like, I love like kind of like the alchemy of painting, like different goos and glops using like egg tempera, egg oil emulsion, encaustic, distempera, different like all.
I don't
this.
know a word you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that texture? Or is that paint?
That's materials. That's
okay.
like there's. I got some jars over here, but nothing's real mixed up right now because
Yeah.
I'm not in the swing of it. But yeah, it's just like all these kind of like traditional mediums art schools aren't teaching anymore. People are forgetting them. People
Yeah.
are losing them. So it's fun to like teach other people about them and keep them alive and combine that with different modern materials like just using like cold wax or the whole golden series or different things. But I always make a joke about like people ask like, is it tough to like when you sell a painting? I'm like, no, because I'm over it. It's like when I'm working on a painting, it's like near the end of a relationship. It's like it's all exciting in the beginning. You got this great idea and you're finally with your work on it. It's full of nothing but potential. And then near the end, it's like you seemed a little distant the other night when you were painting me.
Yeah.
Were you thinking about other paintings where you're painting? Like, no, baby, you're my only painting.
That's a good
Trust me,
point.
I'm only thinking about you when I'm painting you. And it's like, what's this I found? What are these thumbnails in your sketchbook?
Yeah.
Who are these other paintings?
Now,
and then you finish it, and it's forever changed, and it goes on and it finds this forever home, and it's better off for it.
Now,
I'm just an abusive ex-boyfriend to my paintings.
You just use them and let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could I ask, like, as far as like, are you like a fast painter? Like that Mama Death, like, how long did a piece like that take?
Well, the big thing on the Mama Death that took the most time was the lace on that, because rather than being smart and just painting the dots on it,
Yeah.
because I like to reward the viewer, and especially them painting it as an object, I wanted all the holes to subtly recede, so that's all thick enamel painted around all the little dots in the lace.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the biggest time suck on that was the lace. I think there's a time lapse of it on my Instagram. And Erin actually, this was coming up to the show, and Erin was in town visiting, and she helped me work on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was it's one of those things where it's like, I guess in every one of my paintings, so in, like this monster series, all the striped robes, that's all hand laid down copper striping, and then I went back in and painted the black in between all the copper stripes.
Yeah, I saw the one picture you were just sitting at a table painting on them lines, and it seems very, very tedious, but it seems very, very detail oriented.
Yeah, well, I always say it's like my penance, but that's again my Catholic guilt coming out. But it's also kind of like when you look at those African fetish objects and you see all the nails hammered in, it's kind of like a technical narrative of time that goes in with it too, where it starts to. We were talking about energy earlier before. I'm not going to get woo woo and like, you know, I'm not going to start fucking carrying some rose quartz in my pocket or anything like that. But I don't know. Sometimes when you put stuff into that work, there's a technical narrative where subconsciously people pick up on this, like, oh, this clearly looks like it took, you know, some time.
See, like that's exactly why I asked that. It's like all them paintings, like I was looking at that cat, like the fur on that cat is like so detailed and things like that. So, but I also like know that some people, you know, it's all different for some people. Like some people can't work unless
feel inspired.
Yeah, unless they feel inspired. You know what I mean? And it's interesting because your stuff is so detailed and it's so like vivid, and that's why I was so interested to like talk to you and kind of like see where it all comes from. Because like, I mean, you're obviously a very, very interesting guy, because like you seem to just have like a pool of like creative, you know, ideas in your head and shit like that. And it's somewhere like me, like I have the memory span of a goldfish, where I'm just like constantly thinking of different things, constantly like trying to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, see, I've always hated the thing when like, I encountered this more when I was younger. It was like, because the art game is really Outlast. If you stick with it longer than other people and you take it more seriously than other people, you know, more things can happen. There's a lot of this happened earlier on when I was younger and more weekend painters and stuff like this. Like, oh, I can't do it unless I'm inspired or something like this. I'm like, fuck that shit. Get in there and find a way to be inspired. It's like, well, what was it? Picasso said like he comes up with his best ideas when he's already working, and it's like, now do I always feel like rendering? So like when I start like doing a form or a figure and doing that, like that's more of a meditative state you have to get into, where it's just like you get that natural muscle memory of like where you're not thinking about drawing, you're just kind of like it starts to take its place. Like you know, it's like that's what you do all the practice and training for with drawing and everything. So it kind of becomes second nature. But if you're not feeling it someday, like the nice thing about part of my working process is like I don't have to be super inspired to do the stripes or to do the lace.
Yeah.
I'm inspired when I come up with an idea and like put it down and start to figure out how to make it. I'm inspired when I know how I want to make it. But like there's enough things to keep busy with. Like, then you do that for hours on end. You get into that brain space you need to get into.
It fascinates me because of how.
So it's like a toolbox. You just kind of
you're using different tools.
You're using different tools, and it's like it's all kind of part of the process. Like sometimes I'm more of a craftsman, sometimes I'm more of a artist and painter.
Now, do you do all this like framing and stuff like that yourself?
I do most of it. Again, I said my dad's a great woodworker. So with the Monster series, when I was like, there was 16 new paintings. And these triangle ones are a little outside of my skill level of construction, because I'm like, it's been a while since high school geometry, and he's an architect, and I'm like, what's the Pythagorean theorem? How do I fucking do this shit again?
I mean,
I went to picture school, so number school it's great with me.
Not the strongest. It's interesting because like all of your work is like, or the majority of it, I mean, they're huge pieces. Like
I'm a size queen. Like I'm just not satisfied unless it's big enough.
That shadow, is it called Shadow with the wolf? It's like the green background and it's just the silhouette of the wolf.
I just called that the dog piece.
The dog, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I thought that was so incredible because it's like it looks so vivid, but it's like
There's a lot of subtlety to it.
There's a lot of subtlety, but it's still so like.
That's what makes my work fucking a bitch to photograph.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I never thought about that.
Well, so it's like for me, a lot of times thinking about paintings, like what can a painting do that a photograph can't?
Yeah.
So my paintings aren't really windows. They're not really landscapes. They're not really a window into the world. They're more objects onto themselves. Even if there's like elements of representation, you're confronted with like a material texture or metal leaf, which can only really be what it is. There's suggestion of space, but not much more than the width or length of a body.
Yeah.
There's not much in it. I'm not doing a lot of landscape stuff or painting clouds and giving depth, and I don't have to do a lot of vanishing points.
That's a good
with
point,
my
I
stuff.
guess.
I'm thinking of them more of like totems or icon paintings where they function more as object. I think that's why the scale is part of that. Like a one, if I had
like a
painted,
full-size
if
cat.
I had painted the cat or the human smaller, then it's an artifice. It's a window.
Yeah.
But then if I do it, well, you really want to do it slightly larger than life size, so it feels life size.
Yeah.
So like the cat's larger than life size, but because you stand away from it,
it feels the same.
it feels like it has a presence.
Wow,
more than-
I never thought about
Yeah.
that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So with that, it's like it's not necessarily depicting. Although there's a lot of representation and illusion in it, it's kind of constructing it onto itself. Yeah, and kind of building these things to fit in a space, and you interact with them in a certain way. So it's more of like they're present and there rather than, oh, look into this weird window.
Yeah. Do you ever have like trouble with, I mean, half the stuff that you have would never even fit anywhere in my house. Do you ever run into things like that?
Yeah, all the time. That's the tough thing is like New York, they had the money, but they didn't have the space. Pittsburgh has the space, doesn't
money.
always have the money.
Yeah.
I'm a shit used car salesman. I had some great advice from one of my professors. Is like, make what you really want to make, and eventually you'll find the people to own it.
Yeah.
So don't let it hold back. Because like if you're trying to make stuff for a market or you're trying to making things to be sold, then you're just playing catch up. And it's tough to be creative with that. Although I was talking earlier about constraints. Sometimes that can be a constraint, but I don't know if that's the best constraint to use. I've been oddly able to place some of the larger stuff, and Black Forge getting the Mama Death that fits naturally in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. How tall is that?
That's 9 foot.
Yeah, like that's crazy big.
And one of the largest pieces I've made to date that isn't like a diptych or stuff. I did this 8 foot by 10 foot horse. And I was able to sell that. Now, that's another interesting story about one of the few times I've... well, I don't know how controversial you want to get this. One of the few times I've had to carry a firearm.
I mean, I would love to hear about it. It's a life-size picture of a horse?
Yeah. And it's this big green horse. A horse of a different color, if you will.
A horse of a different color.
I was thinking a lot more about like kind of like ancient depictions of horses and like and history painting them of things of power, then looking at the kind of like the different dynasty ceramic horses with the glazes that drip down over them, and kind of like this kind of like historical power of a horse. And I was thinking of like kind of like the Pale Rider and like the horses of the apocalypse. And this is like the horse has like it's kind of a calm body, but his face is open, and his tongue's out, and his eyes are crazed. And this was like during a time of like I went and was just observing like Occupy Wall Street and stuff like that. And was just like, what does power look like without someone, without a narrative navigating or without a thing? And it's kind of like the fear of unfettered power, just things moving in a direction, and how it takes on its own navigation that can be scary and like literally unbridled. It's a horse term.
Yeah.
So I did this kind of horse, and I was playing with it, and then sold it to this lawyer. And his name's in the law firm, and all this type of thing. And it was one of the more expensive paintings I had sold to the date. It was large. And then it's like, this wasn't a good month. I'll get to you next month. next month.
Oh yeah.
About 6 months go by, and I'm just like, it was a bitch to move. I mean, it's one of those like to prevent it from being like a boat in the basement type situation. It's one of the few pieces I've done on canvas and not panel.
Yeah.
So it's on two different separate backing structures, so it can be separated and
Then
folded in
connected.
half. No, not connected. It folds in half. So the canvas is complete, but the separating thing in the back gets
Okay.
bolted together, so it still
Yeah.
stretch over the same surface. I told him like, "Hey, man, because I'm a broke artist."
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm coming to your offices, and either I'm leaving with the money or the horse."
yeah.
Get there, he writes the check, and he's like, "I've never met someone who makes such a big deal about blank and blank amount of money."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never met a guy who's made such a big deal about blank and blank amount of money.
Yeah, especially if you accept the piece.
And the piece is already in place. And he's like, I was expecting to get a check that day. And he's like, no, I'm just going to live with it for a bit and I'll see how it works in the space. And I'm like, whatever. Like, there's a fine line between painter and prostitute.
Yeah.
But still, even prostitutes have to get paid. But I don't have a pimp to come there to rough arm with this job.
I know, right? And I mean, so
Well, that's the tough thing. It's like, no, I've sold another painting to a lawyer, and it was a fine process and all that stuff. The dealer is the other thing I had to deal with then, but we're not just shit talking tonight.
yeah, that's fine.
But sometimes, like, people who know the law really know just the right way to screw you.
Yeah.
Or if they already know you're in a desperate situation and stuff, and you can compromise yourself, it's
Now, do you ever are you ever like through a painting to like a certain percentage? Like, let's say you're 3/4 of the way through, and then you just scrap it.
nah.
Never.
I've never scrapped a painting. I will beat it against the wall until I get something out of it.
Yeah.
It might be hell. I've let a painting sit for a year, but they always get finished. Maybe it's just the guilt of like, well, Zach, you're doing something dumb like being an artist for a living. I'm like, just fucking finish it. Find some way to finish it.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's like, whether it's work ethic or like even just like occult magic, like if you're going to say you're going to do something, you better do it if anything is going to care about the fact that you say things.
That's a good point. That's a real good point. Now,
So I say a lot of shit. I try to follow through with as much of it as I can.
that's good though. I mean, just as long as you get through some of it done, right?
Just so I'm not complete. So it's artist first and not bullshit artist.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, so like, what's your next move as far as like, what do you want to do next? Like, you're doing the Monster series.
Well, this is interesting. So I finished the Monster series. I originally wanted to do another piece with it that was going to be this like 16-foot long boat burial piece.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's going to be like half of it's going to be water, half of it's going to be the boat, and the boat's submerged beneath like the glazes and like a metal leaf sky and a dead body laid out across the whole thing. And once you playing with it, whether there's a cat at the foot of it or another figure or something like this, kind of like a River Styx thing.
Where do you get cats from? The religious aspect of it all, or the ancient aspect of it all?
I had a dream when I was probably about 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm heading out to the garage and I'm naked and I'm a fucking family cat. Like his mouth just opens up and is like, I'm going to fucking eat your soul. And his teeth are real big and this type of shit. And I'm just like, oh, that's just kind of stuck with me.
Really?
Yeah.
That cat right there?
No, it was more of a tortoiseshell than that one, but
That's a pretty wild looking cat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, what were we saying before that though?
well, what I was getting to is like you asked if you ever not finish a painting. Not only can I not finish a painting, I can't not finish an idea once I put it down on paper. Like this is something I want to do.
Yeah.
So I have a catalog of things that I'm working through, which is nice because people say they can't work without inspiration. You gotta jot down when you are inspired. And
Yeah.
like keep a catalog because
It's like comedy. Anytime
Yeah.
I have an idea, I write it down.
Oh yeah. Well, if you do comedy,
Yeah.
this is the thing. Is like even with like working on like you're young as artist or like just networking or chain smoking and do this type of thing and talking to people, it's like it's a bit paying your dues, but getting to know people and interacting with them sincerely and earnestly and honestly gets you more places than anything else.
You have to.
Everyone knows the fakers and the disingenuous people who are just
100%.
like sucking dick and trying to
100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, like,
it's not a world for phoniness.
there's 100 artists in the city. There's artists that are more famous. You know what I mean?
But hell, I think there's probably more famous painters than there are famous stand-up comedians. If anything, comedy is more difficult than like painting.
It's interesting. It's all interesting. All the avenues are interesting. But as far as
But the difference is, I make one painting. You have to tell that joke time and time again.
Yeah.
Which gives you more room to perfect it and play with it. Like my friends are like in bands and stuff. It's like, how do you tap back into that moment with like the stuff of the song, or does the song evolve or change over time? The only thing close to that with paintings is like how you look at it.
Yeah.
That can evolve a little bit. So I was like, by the time I finish my paintings, right after I finish them, I fucking hate them.
Yeah. Always
Can't stand
critiquing them.
Yeah, but it's like time has a certain kindness to it. So
Do
looking
you
back
have
to it,
do you have one that you favor over others? I know that you said that people ask you that and you say it's the next one, but realistically, like, you don't have one that you favor more than another?
I have ones that I think are good pegs in of where I was at then, like the best I did at that point.
Okay, yeah.
More so of like that I can be really pleased with how that came out and was finished. So like the Scapegoat is one of them.
Oh, I love that.
My
I think
Succubus
it's-
piece with like the figure.
Yeah, and on top of it,
And then
unreal.
one of my early ones, this Lazarus piece I did of just like a dead figure on this risen mound and the kind of spatial relations on that. I was very, happy with how that's complete. Or this lace triptych behind you.
Yeah.
Those ones I'm like, okay, this is, looking back on it, is like, okay, this is when I'm starting to figure out how I'm dealing with surface and space and understanding more so how to get ultimately what I want out of the materials.
Yeah.
So those are more like, I don't know if it's like love. It's more like I have a respect for
That's a good way to
what
put
I
it.
did.
A respect for it all.
Which is sometimes tough to respect yourself for what you've done in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, but you
I
have
don't want to be full Bruce Springsteen like glory days.
You have to
Pass you
understand.
by.
I mean, like, I leave everything. I started this podcast almost 2 years ago now, and it's like I leave everything up from the beginning. Like, even on the Instagram, like how shitty things looked, how everything looked.
You gotta have it, then people know how you grow.
Exactly. That's exactly why I do it. It's because, like, I mean, I might not favor the stuff that I've done. Like, I've done interviews where I hated.
Otherwise, you're just perfecting things in the shadows, and that's not how you get anywhere.
Yeah, because people are just seeing their perfect.
You could just be an artist and a hermit and never put anything out there because you're always going to feel insecure about whatever you do, and that holds back a lot of people. It's like, fucking at the end of the day, you just gotta love it or hate it when you finish it. You gotta put it out there.
Yeah.
And the goal is like, I think that's a basic thing that I would highly stress. Finish it and put it out there, and then you can move on.
Yeah.
Don't cut yourself short on that.
And be done with it and just
Yeah.
wash your hands of it. And that makes sense. Now, what else did I want to ask you? I had something in my mind to ask you.
Who's your celebrity crush?
No, we get to Desert Island questions after this, but
I'm like,
I'll get there enough.
Linda Cardellini.
Who?
Linda Cardellini.
Which one? Who's she? I know the
she
name.
was in Freaks and Geeks.
Oh,
She was
yeah.
in
Okay, I know.
Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
She's also the only girl that Corey Matthews ever cheated on Topanga with. Lauren
wow.
from the Ski Lodge.
Oh, shit.
She dated Tommy from Third Rock from the Sun for a period of time, and she was
Wow.
also played this goth girl on the Clueless TV show.
She was
series.
Velma from Scooby Doo?
Yeah.
Yeah. She was also in Grandma's Boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She is
It's incredible.
fantastic.
Yeah. Did you watch, do you watch a lot of, like, newer shows?
I watched some newer shows. I'm also rewatching a bunch of old shows. Like I'm rewatching like Mr. Ed and Father Knows Best.
That's all right. But she's in a new show called, like, Dead to Me.
Oh no, I watched all that with Aaron.
Yeah.
It's
and
fantastic.
It was great. And she's just, I mean, they're both just.
Well, this is an odd thing of like how things get into your subconscious. Like I had a huge crush on that girl from
Yeah.
Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
Who turned out to be Linda Cardellini. huge crush on Lindsay Weir, all this stuff, and then it all starts to come together.
Did you see that?
And then like we were watching Dead to Me, and Aaron's mom was like, "Well, Aaron's nickname in college was Lindsay Weir because she looked too much like
okay,
that."
yeah.
So it gets into your head.
Did
So
you
it's like,
see Eric?
Andre?
No. Eric Matthews stayed with one of the Lawrence brothers in the later episodes of Boy Meets World.
Right.
And you know the redheaded.
She's a porn star now.
Yeah, I just found that out. It's insane. But
I think I saw that documentary somewhere.
I saw it on Facebook. It was like, do you remember the girl from Boy Meets World? She does porn now. Same thing with Icebox from the Little Giants.
Really?
Yeah, it was softcore porn, I think I remember. Mark Madden talked about it on
Aaron's
the
one
radio.
of her favorite movies growing up was Little Giants.
Oh, well, tell her about it. She'll
It also
probably
has what's his
appreciate it.
name who is Casper in human form and
Oh,
kisses
yeah, Devon Sawa.
Devon Sawa, he kisses Christina Ricci, my other lifelong crush.
Yeah.
Both in Little Giants and in Casper.
Yep.
And I think also what was the one with Rosie O'Donnell and
It
Christina
was
Ricci
called
plays
not Time After Time, but
Aaron.
it was called
Aaron, what's that movie with Rosie O'Donnell and Christina Ricci and Devon Sawa?
Now and Then.
Now and Then.
That's it.
Yeah.
Such an incredible. I was trying to get.
So this all
100th
ties.
guest-
So actually, fun fact: this all ties into. Are you familiar with the Partridge Family temple?
No.
It's this cult, quote unquote cult, out of like Colorado and like Oregon, based off the Partridge Family.
Okay.
And their whole kind of thing is like all is one. So fucking they based on the Partridge Family kind of. It doesn't really matter. It's just the Partridge Family. TV, these are archetypes. It plays out a narrative. So I have
Yeah.
the Partridge Family Bible upstairs. This guy...
You're a big fan of the Partridge Family?
Not as much as I am the Monkees. So I'm more of like, if they're the Catholics, I'm the Protestants. I'm listening to the Monkees and less of the Partridge Family. But that song, Whale Song, so actually he legally changed his name to Whale Song Partridge.
Whales on Partridge.
Because they did the song. It's like, Whale Song.
That's bizarre. I never watched any of them older shows.
Oh, they're tons of fun. Actually, the Monkees TV show is great, but it's basically like all the people in the Partridge Family are different archetypes of ancient deities and all this type of stuff. But it's like part of their thing is like, well, animal sacrifice is important, so we go to McDonald's and we partake in a beef sacrifice.
Yeah.
And it's all this kind of like, in fun we trust, e pluribus anus. It's just like, it's almost
I've
like a
never heard of
parody
that
cult,
one.
but has weird ties to like different occult practices and the Church of Satan and different like
Where
out
does that
there.
tie into Devon Sawa?
So this ties into the thing where it's like, I was mentioned earlier, like, you know, Kim Kardashian and Squeaky Fromm and kind of like celebrities who are later involved with like political stuff
Yeah.
or things like this. And like Charles Manson ties into this, what he's with the Beach Boys and the death of the 60s and all this
Yeah.
type of stuff. But it's kind of the idea that all these things in entertainment aren't made in a vacuum. And we can talk about, or even like pop punk or pop TV show stuff. Like we can say this is like filler or nonsense, but it's all the same type of storytelling that pulls from different archetypes in our history and time. It's like, hell, like there's this cult, the Unitarius cult, and Jello Biafra from Dead Kennedys did this interview with them, but their idea that is like, it's kind of like more fun Scientology. And the woman who was running the cult forever looked like Glenda the Good Witch, and they were all like filmmakers and stuff, and it's ridiculous. And it's all like,
Scientology is the wildest.
but their movies are all, so they made a bunch of films about like their religion. It's like the aliens are coming, we're all past life, and there's no such thing
Heaven's
as
Gate.
there's no such thing as dreams or media. It's all ancient memories just put up to play out, which is nonsense, but very entertaining to play
yeah,
with.
it's entertaining to think about.
Yeah, and then it's like it's more of a prompt for just like creative thought. Like how can you connect tangentially a bunch of different things that have no business being related?
Yeah.
And this is just a good way to get humans are pattern seeking individuals. You're given 3 random objects, you're going to find a way to how to relate them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a real good point. You're an interesting
So check
guy.
out the Partridge Family Temple.
You're an interesting guy. I enjoy the Heaven's Gate cult. I like reading about that.
Heaven's Gate is interesting. It's just like fucking Applewhite could never come to terms with the fact that he was gay, so he had to cut off his dick and a bunch of other people's dick. But like, you know,
Very
they had
interesting.
some nice kicks.
Yeah, they had nice kicks.
So
decades.
my mother, she was a talk radio junkie. So I remember when this was all going down and being played out in real time.
Yeah.
And I was already pre-obsessed with aliens at that age. And I was just like, oh shit, there's something dark and weird about what I'm already interested in.
Yeah.
And it just made me feel very uncomfortable. But now I'm just like, oh, uncomfortable can be good.
My my podcast merchandise is themed from Heaven's Gate cult. Some of it, but
Do you know how they made their money?
Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
No.
They were early on, they had an internet design company. So they developed a bunch of different websites. They were programming. They were doing a bunch of different things for us. So the sign-off letters from a lot of the members were like, telling them like, oh, here's the person you can contact if you need to update your website or something like this. And they left someone behind. So the Heaven's Gate website is still up and functioning because they left someone behind to keep that going.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why their website was a little better than Angel Fire back at that time.
And that's why people like Lil Uzi Vert get sent
Lil
cease and-
Lucifer. Well, yeah.
Lil
Uzi Vert. Lil Lucifer.
Wow.
That's how it gets it from. But like, that's the thing is like, we are very far. Maybe we're getting close back to this time, but like when Marilyn Manson is playing MTV Music Awards as a main stage act,
Yeah.
maybe we're getting a little closer to that with like Poppy and Grimes and like Lil Uzi Vert, but it's like there's never been a time, like I remember watching Ricky Lake and like different shows where like fucking Marilyn Manson would be coming on it and like talking about goth kids, and they do like on Ricky Lake they do a makeover to make the kids look less goth or stuff like this, and then they would do a goth makeover for the parents. It was all good fun. There's tons of great shit, but it's like, but when you go back in the tracks, it's like Marilyn Manson, he's out in Florida. And he's listening to radio coming out of Colorado
Yeah.
with radio DJ out of there. His daughter and two of her friends were the teenage exorcists. Bob Larson, that's his name, and he was high, big up in like the Satanic Panic period. And he'd have like different musicians on the show and talk about Satanic Panic. He'd have like fucking Boyd Rice on his show, and then fucking Marilyn Manson is listening to this. Hangs out with Boyd Rice, steals a lot of his aesthetic and imagery from Boyd Rice, who was doing weird experimental music before that, who was dating Zena LaVey before that, and was in with the Anton LaVey in the Church of Satan, and this all kind of comes weird full circle. And then you get into like
You have a lot of knowledge in your head.
Well, you get to Michael Aquino, who was like in the Church of Satan, and then goes off and sets up the Temple Set, but then he's tied with all these kind of Satanic Panic, like child sex crime, weird shit. It's a rabbit hole, but like reality is weirder than fiction. A lot of this shit.
Wow. You're an interesting guy.
I have a lot of you. I would have to go on a very specific episode of Jeopardy to win.
Yeah.
Like
Slumdog Millionaire?
it would have to be just like these occult leanings and this stupid pop knowledge. So how I got in with the not got in, but like following this all ties into the Partridge Family temple. And then oddly enough, Miss Pittsburgh was the mother from the Partridge Family who lived next to my grandmother growing up, and her brother dated her back in the day. Who was also, what you brought up earlier, grandma's boy. The hot grandma that the roommate who
Really?
fucked Charlie Chaplin.
Nah.
So this is the whole aspect of, I was talking about Linda Cardellini. We do this type of thing.
Wow.
This is the basic tenet of how pop culture ties into narrative, and
Jeez.
who they play characters through different things all comes together. All is one,
That's wild.
which is a fun kind of mental experiment. It's like how many removed from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah,
it's
see,
that type of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
and it's just a brain experiment of
That's
like
all
how
it is,
you
a
do
brain
it.
experiment. That's what we used to do. I used to be a janitor at a machine shop, and someone would give me two actors, and I would just link them together. It's like who's in this movie with who's in that movie and who's in that.
And this is
movie.
creativity.
Yeah, I love that.
Da Vinci said creativity is a stain on the wall, and you start seeing faces in it. This is what the first thing you do as a kid, like picking out shapes and
on
clouds.
wall and stuff. I
This
mean,
is
wood
su-
and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is what people carve faces out of wood, find animals in clouds. This is humans pattern-seeking individuals, and we put this pattern onto things where that pattern doesn't naturally exist. You start connecting together all these patterns, boom, you got creativity.
Wow. You're wow. We have to have another episode of this at some point. All right. We got to start wrapping this up. It's going long. I feel like I can talk to you for a very long time.
Well, I can talk. Well, this is my problem. This is why I never leave the bar until like 3 a.m. because
You're definitely a talkative guy, and this might be the most random is a good word. This might be the most random episode.
It's so random. You know what, man? It's just so random.
It is random, but I,
No,
like
but
I
all
never
ties
know
together.
It does all tie together in some weird way. But I never really know how people are going to be whenever I talk to them. You know, what I
Right.
mean?
Well, hell, you just contact me after a picture on the wall.
Yeah, from a picture on the wall, and that's how I kind of.
A
kinda how I
glorified
get
stain
to
on the wall led to
Yeah.
this creativity.
But it really was. It was. I feel like it was staring into my soul, and I was like, you know what?
Good. I try to inspire guilt and terrible feelings deep inside people's souls with my paintings.
Yeah, I was seriously just sitting there editing. I was editing an episode. So, like I was saying before, October I have like eerie type people on.
Oh, yeah.
First week I had
Spooky.
First week I had on a guy who lived in a haunted house with a demon for years.
Have you talked to the people who run Trendle Manor yet?
Not yet, but I messaged them last
Mr.
year.
Arm?
This guy that I had on though was his name is Bobby Cranmer, and it's you ever hear of the Demon of Brownsville?
Yes.
So
I don't. I've heard of it. I've never dived into it in research.
Well, I had the kid on, like the kid who was on the cover of the book. It's right up the road. I messaged him and I had him on, and he talked to me. We had a 2-hour-long conversation about it, and I was editing this podcast in Black Forge, staring directly at Mama Death.
Seems appropriate.
And I was like, man, like,
Do you want to hear a funny thing about the Black Forge thing?
Go ahead.
So she's paying me installments
Okay.
over 6 months and just worked out to $666 a month.
Jeez, 666. That's probably why.
And there's some change on that, but we can ignore the change.
Yeah, that's probably why she did it though.
Yeah. I don't know if she did the math beforehand.
Yeah, she probably did. That's how all their drinks are 666. But
Did you want to? How do you want to wrap this up? Do you want to do the island choices?
yeah,
okay.
I'm getting there for sure. No one gets away from the desert island question.
Okay.
So my last
We're going
question,
Gilligan's Island with this.
my last question though, I really want to know about is so the rats and the cats. Like I see you have a bunch of these cats on the ground here. What would you call them? Sculptures?
Yeah, they're cast iron versions of the.
Those are cast iron.
Those are cast iron. They're kitty bells. They're heavy to lift up. You can get cat fit with them.
Where do those come into play? Did you make those?
Yeah, I cast them right over across the river at Carrie Furnaces.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you build the cast?
Oh no, they're from dead cats.
Really?
Do you want to hear the whole?
I want to.
I'll give you the expedited story of.
Yeah, just tell me, please.
So
There's dead cats in there?
no, they're not in there.
Okay, I was just kidding.
Yeah. So getting dead cats, I thought was gonna be fairly easy because there's plenty of kill shelters.
Yeah.
And they're up to their necks in dead cats. So I
Yeah.
made a bunch of phone calls. People were getting back to me. They can't do it, or they couldn't do this, or they weren't getting back to me at all because like you can't call up like, hey, I need some dead cats.
Yeah.
Can you give them to me,
Like, who
please?
the
Thank
fuck
you
is
very
this
much.
guy asking for cats?
So I figure I put on the nice shirt, go down and talk to them. I'm like, hey, this is for like this art thing. Just needed the cats to cast them because like I could get the ones that are already soaked in formaldehyde,
Yeah.
but that's like a couple hundred per one. The ones you did in like biology class
Yeah,
or anatomy
yeah.
class in high school. But then I wanted them to be a little fluffier than that, and like just like formaldehyde and blow drying that and like fucking fumes and shit. I didn't want to
Yeah.
do that. So I'd already put out like a notice to all my friends, like, if you see any dead cats on the side of the road, just fucking let me know. Got one or two that way. I go into the place, I'm like, hey, how do I get these dead cats? They're like, sorry, we can't give them to you. You need a permit. I'm like, oh, well, a permit. I can go down to like, the city council, do some paperwork nonsense, just like handling biomatter. That's why I was like, no. We put them down with ketamine as a controlled substance and it's still in their bloodstream at the time. I'm like, well, I'm not going to suck the cat blood to get high. They're like, you'd be surprised if we put a lock in the dumpster. I'm like, that was going to be my next question.
Wow.
When do you put them in the dumpster? Because I'm down for some lowbrow shit and grabbing them. I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh shit, are there people actually sucking cat blood to get high? Because like,
Wow, that's pretty
bullshit.
Wild.
I thought you could just suck a dick to get money to get drugs. I guess you can just go right to the source.
That would be the craziest if you just walked in an alleyway and you saw someone just like biting into
like,
a cat.
fucking ketamine vampires. Anyways, so I go to this was years ago, and I go to a holiday party. And I'm like talking to my parents' friends. I'm a thoroughly gin-soaked boy at this point. I'm like, where the fuck am I gonna get dead cats? I'm talking to my family friends, and they're like, well, when our cat was missing, we put a bunch of missing cat ads. And then people would send us geotags or crossroads or a place where they saw a dead cat on the side of the road that matched the description. I'm like, oh, that's some lowbrow shit I'm totally after.
Yeah.
So I put a bunch of missing cat ads. And I was specifically after black and white cats. So I did a cat ads for all black cats, all white cats, gave them names. This is Pancake. This is Skidmark.
Yeah.
Appropriately named.
Yeah.
And then they started to roll in. It was wintertime, so they're already frozen, no rot, no maggots.
Really?
Get the alert from Craigslist. Zip off in my van. Shovel, gloves, bags, zip ties, knives. If I was ever pulled over, I'd look very suspicious.
Oh yeah, probably look real suspicious getting that.
Well, that leads into another story about my old van that had cryptic writing all over it that I was pulled over every weekend, but that was a story for another time.
That's a story for another time. So you got these dead cats and then you cast them over there?
Yeah, I kept them frozen in my freezer, and then I had to get a secondary freezer to keep them in because Aaron got sick of, was like, hey, where's the ice at? It was like, it's right next to the bunch of dead cats in there. So I had 7 of them altogether.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So what's the process of you casting them?
Fairly simple. You thaw out the cat, do a 2-part sand mold, you lay it on the ground, put it's sand with resin,
Yeah,
so you
and
pack it around it,
Yeah.
flip it over,
Pack it.
put some top down so it doesn't adhere to the other stuff, put it in, take the cat out, put it in my maggot bin so I have all the bones from these cats too.
Ah.
And then vent holes, pour hole, fill it with iron, cast iron cat, clean it up, seal it, you're good to go.
Jeez. That is crazy.
Right?
That's wild. And then you got birds and mice over here.
So people would just bring me the birds because like their cats kill them or
Yeah.
they fly through the window or like hell I'd go to
Jeez.
the PPG building in the springtime and
Yeah,
just
they just fly in.
they fly into. You can just go around early in the morning before they clean them up and pick them all up off the road.
Jesus.
I was
Wow.
I was at Mardi Gras one night and a friend of mine had found like some dead birds and he gave me one and Richie's
toss them in your pocket.
Richie's there and he's like, what the fuck are you, Zach, you're not doing fucking drug deals in my bar. I'm like, Richie, I would never do drugs. He's like, what's in the fucking bag, Zach? I'm like, it's a dead bird. He's like, don't fuck with me. I'm like, open it up. And he's like, oh shit, that's a dead bird, you fucking macabre bastard.
All right. Jeez. We got to have another episode here at some point so I can.
Oh, I can talk.
That's all right, but that's that. I have more questions. To
This
ask,
is
but
a
we can't even
marathon.
get
I
to 'em now.
understand.
I do an opening segment with everyone. It's called "What's in the Cup." So, what's in your cup?
Gin, lime, and ice, and black cherry pop.
Black cherry pop. That's the only black cherry pop that I could find anywhere.
Hey, don't worry about it.
IBC, the classic glass bottles. I used to think I was a badass whenever I'd roll in with a 6 or a IBC root
Well, because you
beer.
don't drink, so that's the
Yeah.
closest you got
You
to
know what I mean?
the like. And there is a fetishized element, the cling, the clack, the
bottles,
bottle.
You know, the old Coca-Cola bottles that you had to open up.
Well, hell, like I was. There's this place we go. It's like the swimming hole outside of Butler. But what people forget about Coca-Cola wasn't that they were just producing it all in one place.
Yeah.
there was multiple places, so it would be like Butler bottling or Latrobe bottling or any regional bottling
pretty
that would produce
interesting.
their own Coca. So they essentially get the syrup.
Yeah.
And then anything after that is just seltzer
Yeah.
tossed into it because it's the sugar and everything is already in with the syrup. So they'd order the syrup from the source place. There's one place making all the syrup,
And then they make their
and then they bottle it regionally because like shipping glass bottles can be pretty expensive with weight and time and all this type of stuff. So you have regional bottlers.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
You think about things in a different way, don't you?
Well, this is why I'm an artist.
So we got through what's in the cup. Now I do an ending segment with everyone. Are you a fan of The Office at all? I feel like you wouldn't be.
I've watched episodes. I think it's a little overwrought on instant nostalgia.
Yeah.
They got very self-aware. I think if they'd gone only 3 to 5 seasons,
Yeah.
then they could have done something. But it's like, I will say, I think people have very strong feelings about The Office that I
Yeah,
don't
I'm the
understand.
wrong guy to talk to about it. I feel like it's the greatest show of all time.
I would have to say I like Parks and Rec more than The Office.
See, like I'm not that at all. I watched
But-
Parks and Rec after, and I could not get through past the second season.
But again, not the best for Parks and Rec. 30 Rock is still better to me.
I never watched that. I do want to watch that though. But anyway, regardless, I do an ending segment. It's called Desert Island Questions. Desert Island Questions is where I give my
I've seen
guest-
Gilligan. I can get this.
It's not from Gilligan. It's from The Office.
No, but like if you're having Desert Island Questions,
I get it.
It's Gilligan.
Comes
You
from
gotta have your
something else.
coconut radio. And
Well,
like, who
I'm
am I
giving
going to
you
sleep with
three
on Gilligan's
categories.
Island? I'm going to have a 3-way with Gilligan, Ginger,
Gilligan and Ginger.
and the others,
and
and the rest. Because
yeah, the
before
rest.
they said the professor and Mary and because when they originally did it was like the
You like old
professor
shows?
and the rest, but the rest was just Mary Ann. So it was
they
like
made it
so
a name.
so they went up the octave. They're like Professor and Mary Ann here on Gilligan's.
I never watched any of those older shows.
Oh, Scooby Doo, Gilligan's Island.
I like
Fucking rocked my
Scooby-Doo,
shit.
but, like-
well, what I loved most about Scooby Doo is the musical breaks.
Okay.
And they're chasing like the monster and
Yeah.
all this stuff. But it was always great, kind of like 60s monkey-esque, Beatles-esque,
Yeah.
like a freak beats type music.
I'll have to watch another episode and see what it's all about.
Watch the original Hanna-Barbera shit. That's the good stuff.
All right. So, ending segment I do, Desert Island Questions. I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island to exhaust until they meet
End of
their
time.
demise.
Yeah.
So the first category is things to watch on a desert island. So you could pick 3 things. And whenever I say 3 things, it could be whole TV series, whole movie series, or you can get as selective as you want. 3 choices there.
Okay. Yeah, I think you need something. You're on a desert island. You need something to like inspire thought. You need something to make you feel comfortable. You need something to keep you entertained.
Okay.
Something that is funny every time you watch it. I'm gonna have to go. What about Bob?
Okay.
Literally every time you watch it, it's just as enjoyable.
I don't know if I've ever watched an episode.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall can get close to that.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's still funny every time.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's a good rewatch.
The best is whenever he.
I wish I wasn't wearing this fucking shirt.
He just goes, "Thou shalt not pass." It's like they're going through. That
Oh yeah, it's like
montage, and
when
it
he wore
goes-
the sweatpants every day that
it's
week.
So good.
It's great. It's pretty much a perfect film.
Yeah, it's very.
But
very
I got to
good.
go with the predecessor. What about Bob? Is very perfect.
All right, that's a movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever.
Now, if
seen
I
it.
want something like
Wait, is that Paul Rudd?
No. This is Bill Murray and Dreyfus.
What about Bob?
What about Bob?
I never seen it.
Come on, man, you gotta see it.
I never seen it.
It's-
I've honestly never seen Groundhog's Day.
You're not a proper Pittsburgher.
I'm not, but whatever.
Anywho, or at least a Western Pennsylvanian.
So what about Bob is a choice. Now what's the second two?
Second choice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do something that makes me feel a certain way. I don't want to say that it's like, oh, this is one of the most interesting films ever made, but it definitely gets your brain rolling, and I think it's underrated.
What do you say,
Is
Memento?
Dark City?
I don't know what that is.
Ooh, Dark City. You would,
I don't know about anything that you mentioned this entire podcast.
Dark City is a beautiful film.
About
It's-
what? With who?
Without giving spoilers and things, it's a sci-fi noir. It's gorgeous. It has elements of like Men
Who's
in
in
Black.
it though?
You have what's her name from Labyrinth? And the heroine fucking movie.
The heroin movie.
Requiem for a Dream. She got the breast reduction.
Yeah. Okay, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
She did ass to ass and that.
Yeah, I remember
but she
that.
plays a jazz singer and a husband in this, and there's these strangers in the land, and the nature of them is unknown. Only watch the director's version, not the public release
It's
version.
called Dark City.
It's called Dark City. They essentially use all the sets from this. It's by the same director of The Crow.
Oh, okay. That's
They
very
use
good.
all the sets for it in The Matrix, and The Matrix is shit. Dark City is fantastic.
What? You don't like The Matrix?
Yeah, The Matrix is fun when you like new metal and you have a boner in the 90s.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Dark City is like
Keanu Reeves.
Dark
Point Break.
Dark City is
For the
beautiful
people-
and fantastic. It's like if you like Blade Runner and The Matrix,
Never seen Blade Runner. I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I ain't a big sci-fi guy.
hey, this is not a straight up sci-fi movie. This is more of a like film noir, Maltese Falcon type movie. Beautiful aesthetic, wonderful
You're
contemplative
telling
narrative.
me Blade Runner ain't a sci-fi movie?
It is a sci-fi movie, but it also has noir qualities to it.
Yeah, but it has sci-fi. I mean, like if you classify it, to you have subgenres. You're throwing out subgenres that I've never even that have never came out of my mouth. But if you go down to the basic, there's horror, there's action, there's thriller, there's sci-fi. You would consider Blade
Okay.
Runner sci-fi.
If we're gonna break down, like, is Aliens a sci-fi movie or a horror movie
Aliens,
or Alien?
I mean,
Exactly.
It could be both.
That's what I'm saying, and it's a good film.
All right, touche. That's touche. All right, so now you have, what about Bob? You got Dark Cities. Now I'm curious, what's the last one?
We're doing a series.
Yeah, if you want to
I
do
can toss in a series. I'm gonna do Father Knows Best. It's
Okay.
delightful. It's fantastic. It makes you feel okay inside.
All right.
And despite the reputation, it's a movie. It's a film. It's neither. It's a
who's in
TV
there?
series. A lot of people, actors who are dead, all dead now.
Oh, okay.
But actually, I don't know if they're all dead. I'm pretty sure they're all dead.
Yeah, it's older though, right?
It's older. It's black and white.
Oh, okay.
It's a family
Keep it.
interacting and solving their problems, and they actually all listen to each other and interact.
I'll take Tool Time.
It'll make you feel good.
I'll take Tool Time.
Hey, yeah, but like Tool Time doesn't have a daughter. You need a daughter narrative to really round out the story.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a goth kid, which is essentially a daughter.
Yeah,
but like,
I swear I was.
and their
just gonna
hair
say
was
that.
long enough.
I was just gonna say that, but I thought it would be too.
no. I'll go there for you. I can be the monster. I can be the monster.
Mark kind of Man, that's
He used to
good.
show up on E! Entertainment all the time. It was like he's living in a basement with his girlfriend and all this type of shit.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas quit everything and went to school.
Yeah, well, he did the same Weezer move. He went to was it Harvard?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right. All right, second category. Do you read it all? Mm-hmm. So 3 books. 3 things.
Marriage
I
of
don't
Heaven
know.
and Hell
Yep, don't know it.
by William Blake.
Okay.
Both wonderful visuals and a great book. Peter Pan.
Oh, okay.
Third book. What do I do for the third book? I could be pretentious or honest with this.
I'll let you take both.
If I was going to be pretentious, I'd probably do Leviathan. If I'm going to be non-pretentious, I'll do Fight Club because it's just fun.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I still like the movie better than the book.
Well, you're a cunt.
You really like the book better? I mean, I feel like if I read the book,
to be fair, I read the book before I saw the movie.
see, if I did that too, I would probably like the book.
It was
better
essentially
as well.
we were in middle school
Yeah.
and we passed it around like the Bible because like really it's a stunted development book.
Yeah.
And it's delightful when you're in middle school and you're making homemade bombs. It's good fun.
Yeah.
And with all my guy group, we were
Do you like any of his?
we
other
were
books?
hopped up on testosterone and angst, so Fight Club was really great for us.
Do you like any of his other work?
I mean, Choke was good.
Yeah. Did you read Snuff?
I did not read Snuff.
It was interesting.
I have to say, if we're including other work, I liked his interview on Joe Rogan more than I liked some of his other books.
Yeah, it was so good.
It was really good, and he's also like
such a very interesting person.
Well, I thought it was most interesting when he was talking about like writing groups
Yeah.
and like
yeah.
getting kicked out of different writing groups, and I like that he's a bit of a edgy bastard.
Yeah, I like that too.
because I like off-putting people.
Yeah, I like that too.
Because again, harkening back to an early point in the podcast,
Gotta get
I never
vulnerable.
learned the difference between good and bad attention.
Yeah, he was because I mean I feel like that there wasn't too many like interviews with.
He's gay, right?
He might be like bi or tri even. You know, I think that's what he said in one thing.
What, he's a trisexual. I'll try anything.
I don't know. If
Is that
was
how
him.
trisexual breaks
I
down?
swear.
Is
I
that the
think.
pun?
I feel
I'll
like
try
that he
anything.
made that joke, but
I feel like creative people can run that way.
oh yeah, I mean like but that interview was like. That's what's good about Joe Rogan is like
He can get the reputation as a meathead, but like
he's
he
a
just
meathead,
likes,
but he's
he
also
likes to have a conversation.
Exactly, that's it. He's just a meathead that likes
And
to
he
learn
has
things.
interesting people on. He can keep a conversation going.
And he's generally unbiased to a point.
Right, and I think that's why people don't like him is because
Exactly. He
Because you
plays
can't-
devil's advocate.
yeah, and well, which a good host should do and keep
Exactly.
the conversation going. It's like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
He's essentially like a gym coach shrink, where it's like, what do you mean by you're only doing leg days?
I feel like that I feel like that whenever I came in and we started talking, I feel like it was like me trying to balance a bunch of plates. trying to balance what the topics that we were talking about. It's not a bad thing at all. It's a very interesting thing, and it keeps me on my toes.
I
but-
just need a direction. I can go wherever you want.
I know
a
your
prompt is good.
We definitely have to do another one of these. But so you picked your books now. Now the third category is things to listen to.
Oh, okay, this gets complicated.
It's all right. Take your time.
I'm on an island, so some of this has to do with being on an island.
I mean, it does.
I'm gonna
If you
have
want
to either listen to Martin Denny or Arthur Lyman.
Okay.
This is like Exotica Music 101.
Okay.
This is like when people were building tiki bars and bomb shelters after World War II in the Cold War area.
That's your jam. Before you die.
That rocks my shit. And if I'm on an island, that's perfect. There's also his first name's Eden. I forget his last name. He also ties in, but he's a little more spoken word. He lived under the H in the Hollywood sign for years. Eden Abez, I'm pretty sure is his name. Kind of more like a Ken Nordine spoken word thing with that, but very good. And then I'm gonna need something to amp me up because on the island I'm surviving by myself.
Yeah.
So
Survivor.
I'm gonna have to pick. If it's gonna have to amp me up, I'm gonna have to go. Nation of Ulysses plays pretty for baby.
All right.
Great album, fantastic stuff.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think that I've ever had anyone on here who said all their choices, and I didn't know any of them.
Sorry, I'm just very pretentious.
No. That's good that you said that because I just didn't know any of them.
And then a third thing for that, because you need a third thing, something just to listen to, maybe something to remind you of home a bit, something to like take you where you need to go.
Donnie Ayers.
No.
just kidding.
I'm gonna have to just go. This is gonna be a 50-50 split. If it's gonna remind me of home and make me feel okay. No, 3-way split. They're very different from each other. I'm either gonna have to go with like a Western PA polka compilation,
Okay.
a Western PA bluegrass compilation,
Okay.
or fucking just straight up Weezer the Blue Album.
Oh, that's
That's
good.
Adolescent 101.
I know that.
Oh shit, this gets tough because if I need something to remind me of my youth and childhood and home and this type of thing, like third grade, I'm listening to like Dizzy Up the Girl, Goo Goo Dolls all day, every day.
Man.
Or Jumper, Third Eye Blind, or Blue Third Eye Blind.
I saw Third Eye Blind at a music festival, and there.
Which one? Were you down in Texas for that one?
No, it was in Atlanta. It was the Midtown.
They're shit now.
Well,
Because
it
it's
was
just like
so
it's just the lead guy.
powerful.
He has that stupid top hat thing he does. He
It
gets
was
too
just
much
so
in his own
powerful
bit.
to hear 10,000 people singing "Semi-Charmed Kind of Life"
Mm-hmm.
in unison, and like.
They say you never get over the music that you went through puberty with. So even though I was listening to like a bunch of weird punk rock stuff, I was in third grade, fourth grade listening to like Goo Goo Dolls and Third Eye Blind.
100%.
And, like,
Bush Glycerin?
yeah,
Come on.
And it's like, no, I never did Bush or Glycerin. That was I
Never?
didn't like that shit. Wasn't
Bush?
for me. Wasn't for me.
Oh my God.
But like, I will readily say that Goo Goo Dolls and Third Eye Blind ruined my life as far as how
You loved Goo Goo Dolls, but you couldn't listen
Hey,
to
they're
Bush.
Buffalo boys. I gotta put some respect out
Honestly,
to those Rust Belt boys.
Goo Goo Dolls has the best live performance of all time.
I'll
Did
put
you see
it
it
this
where he's
way.
raining?
Yeah.
And it's
and he's playing. It's gorgeous, and he's playing up in Buffalo. Then,
killing it.
but
killing
what,
it.
But what I'm gonna say is like that music ruined every romantic relationship I ever had for forever because like.
That's all right.
Also, part of the reason I became an artist, like fucking A, like was that '90s movie that they did, the '90s version of Great Expectations with like the bitch from Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow, and
Oh, that was
what's his name? And he's an artist, and he's a scumbag from like Florida.
I know who you're talking
about. He's in Reality Bites,
I can't remember
and
the title of the movie.
Daybreakers, and Boyhood.
Edward Norton, not Edward
No.
Norton. Not fucking Steven Dorff. He was in Daybreakers. That's why I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And Training Day.
Yeah. Anywho,
Yeah, whatever his name is.
we know who he is by
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, yes.
God, idiots.
And his daughter's in a bunch of shit now too.
I did not know that she was. That's
With
Uma Thurman.
Uma Thurman's and
I
his
didn't know
daughter.
that. She
I
was
didn't
just
even know
in
they were fucking
Stranger
together.
Things.
I guess I wasn't paying attention to shit back in the day.
I did not know. I saw that.
But like that music, it was like, like don't suppose I'll ever know what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
your mother hit the wall, your father disowned you. You're like, yeah, I want to be that bastard that upsets your whole family, and you're with me because I'm a scumbag. You want to save me, and I want to destroy you.
Those are good choices, though. The three, like, I feel like you got
You know what?
Google
Never mind.
Dolls in
Fuck
there.
my other decisions. Goo Goo Dolls is gonna have to be the other one.
All right.
Because like,
I
hell,
don't know any of the other ones.
It's one of those things. Like the Great Expectations movie was just really solidified. Like, you know what? I'm not might be a great guy, but I'm at least interesting. So you'll want to be with me.
At least interesting.
Oh God, I sound like a proper bastard.
That's all right. Okay, second to last category is the death row meal.
Okay, do I get 3 choices for this as well?
You could have whatever you want from wherever you want.
We've been doing top 3 for this, so I'm going to do 3
Go ahead.
options. I might decide the day of.
All right.
We have pasta carbonara,
Okay. I know what that is.
but not pancetta. Use prosciutto instead of pancetta in it.
Okay. We might be exact opposite.
You would do the pancetta, not prosciutto.
100%. I'm not a big fan of
I think
prosciutto.
the bacon flavor, like you gotta get the corner cuts down cheap in the strip.
Yeah.
Slice it up so it's all diced rather than like strips of prosciutto. You have the
Yeah.
diced cubes of it.
Every time I've ever
But
had
I find
it,
like pancetta like it's too much like bacon. The grease like tampers the flavor too much, so you don't get the eggy taste.
I don't like the plasticky taste you get from prosciutto.
Well, you're getting the wrong type of prosciutto.
I
my
am.
friend.
That's why,
Yeah.
probably. But
Another choice, I have to go like garbage meal. I just want like cheeseburger and a waffle.
okay.
with
A
an
waffle.
orange pop.
Jeez. Cheeseburger and a waffle.
That's what I do for my basic breakfast. Like if I was like at Eden Park or Denny's or this type of shit.
Cheeseburger and a waffle?
Cheeseburger and a waffle with an egg over easy on the burger.
Oh, those are good.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
are good.
And then after that, rack of lamb.
Oh, I
I
enjoy
love
that.
lamb. Lamb
Yeah.
is one of my preferred meats in the world.
Very good. My dad always made it.
Rack of lamb over some wilted spinach.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I'll go with that all day.
But what mood am I in the day I'm dying?
I know. You don't know. You could want
Well, I don't have to worry about health.
Chick-fil-A sandwich.
You're not worrying about health. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a little bad for me. I can't have
Could
this.
have,
Like, you're fucking dying.
Tons of fun from Kings. All right. So the last question that I ask everyone is if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Shit. Yeah, I've never. People always ask the question of like, oh, if you have dinner with the 3 people in the world anytime, I said like, nah. I don't
My scenario is you sitting with someone in a waiting room somewhere.
Can I do top 3?
If you want to, yeah.
Charles Manson, William Blake, Tom Waits.
All right.
Yeah,
Those are.
there's not much to say about that.
That's interesting. Do you watch Mindhunter?
Yeah, I tried out to be an extra in it. Hell,
yeah?
just down the street, the bar in the recent season is just a place down the street.
Yeah,
and
they filmed right in the
Judy
shopping center
Lewis
next
owns
to
it.
us.
Yeah. It's a good show and like fucking.
Did you watch this? You watched the
I
recent
watched the new season. It seems like a transitional season.
What did you think about
I think
the
it was a
guy who played Charlie Manson?
He played Charlie Manson also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but
I've never seen that yet.
And it's the best slapstick comedy you'll see this year.
Really?
I was in the theater watching with Aaron, and when it gets to the violent end scene, I am cracking up loudly.
I mean, you
laughing
gotta-
hysterically.
you got
And then Aaron has to
Tarantino.
grab my leg and like, you're scaring everyone in this theater right now because
You
you're
got to be
laughing.
Tarantino, though. I mean,
Because
he
like
gotta
he
have
does,
the
it's not
relief.
real violence; it's cathartic fake violence.
Yeah,
And that's the
exactly.
thing. It's like why anyone ever listened to nu metal? It wasn't real violence; it was fake cathartic violence. It's like, yes, I love Korn. I'm sorry,
Yeah, Korn's good. That's why.
but no. So I'm watching in the theater. Aaron grabs my leg. He's like, "You're scaring everyone in this theater because you're just laughing hysterically." I was like, "This is if the Three Stooges did a murder snuff film."
That is what it is, probably.
And it is great and fantastic, but the only difference is it's the same actor, but they put a lot of prosthetics on him
Okay.
in Mindhunter. But he did a good job playing Charlie. He was a little too coherent because Charlie's was a lot less coherent than that.
Yeah.
But you get pieces of knowledge, and he never killed anybody. but that's a conversation for another time.
It's a conversation another time. All right. What a conversation we had now, though, right?
I'm not upset about that. It's a good way to occupy evening. I was able to have some delightful
Yeah, what'd you
beverages.
think about it? What'd you think about it being your first podcast?
The cadence seems fairly natural to fall in after listening to enough podcasts. I think spacing out and not talk. The problem is when I at bars or just a normal conversation, I have a tendency to talk over people.
You march to the beat
A
of your
lot.
own drum for sure.
Yeah, I also friends of mine who have done cocaine before, and
Yeah.
me and not done it for a while. They're like, I'm like, what's it like? They're like, well, every idea you have is super important. You're having a great time, and you need to tell everyone your ideas. I'm like, oh, so that's how I normally feel. When I'm on cocaine, it's a very different thing. I get like next level asshole, where I'm like, I won't even condescend to talk to you about the wonderful ideas that I have. So I get very quiet, and someone asks me a question, and I just stare at them and walk away. It's I never need to feel like that again. But at bars and stuff in conversation, I get too excited and I just yell over people.
Yeah.
But
I
having
get
the
excited
structure,
too.
having the artifice of the podcast allows me to maybe listen a little more. I think there's probably still enough times if listeners are listening, I've talked over you.
That's all right. I usually do it to everyone. I usually am the one that's talking over.
Well, good thing we're like fencing now. And
Yeah, we're fencing.
Yeah.
That's it. Like I said, this was a very interesting conversation because I had no idea what to expect, and some people.
Did you have a good time?
I had a good time. I definitely did. I learned a lot of shit. You're very wise.
No. Simply clever.
Clever.
We got a laugh from over
Yeah,
there.
you got a laugh in the background.
She's been with me for 11 years. She
You know a lot of
understands the
interesting.
game.
You know a lot of interesting things. But all right, so take a second and promote anything you got to promote.
The only things, hell, what would I promote? Just go out to see shows in Pittsburgh. See what the artists are making here. Art and life doesn't happen other places. It happens right outside your doorstep. If you need a wax canvas bag, go to Moop. Wendy, great Pittsburgh company. If you need pizza, go to Spirit. Tom's been great to me. They're great people there. I have some murals and art hanging up there.
What's your Instagram?
Zach_Brown_art.
Do you ever have any problems with people contacting you
for
wanting
Zach
them-
Brown Band?
Yeah.
No, that's never happened. Actually, there's a funny story about this. When I was going into college,
Yeah.
I was thinking about like, okay, what's going to be my art professional name? I was playing with the idea like maybe I use my mother's maiden name just because it's less common, like Cubic.
Yeah.
So I Googled my name, and then I get this MySpace page for the Zach Brown Band.
Oh, nice.
I'm like, oh, this is back on MySpace. Oh, here's this fat guy singing about fried chicken.
yeah.
And he's wearing a beanie, and like, he's never going to get big. I don't have to worry about this.
Oh, big as hell.
I live to swallow those words. Actually, fun story is Zach Brown owned the building, this type of thing.
Yeah.
Artist who writes for me, Sam Smith.
Really?
So we're
Zach
playing with the idea
Brown
of just
and
doing a
Sam
show. It just says Zach Brown, Sam Smith, one night only.
You're gonna have some
and
weird
everyone's gonna be
ceramic
very
sculptor
disappointed.
come in, and they're gonna be like, "My name's Florida Georgia Line."
Everyone's going to be very disappointed if we did that.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Cheers to the bottle of water, at least.
Cheers, to my bottle. Of
I know you
water.
don't imbibe, but sometimes you will
all right.
ingest.
I was gonna have one of them black cherry.
No.
drinks. No. I don't want it though. I
like,
would have took one if I'd have liked
diabetes is very real.
it. Yeah, I know. I mean, in IBC root beer, there's
Do you know what? You know what?
43
Pop,
grams of sugar.
you know what? Pop has the highest amount of sugar.
Is it Coke?
No,
What?
Orange Pop.
Really?
Orange Pop is one of the highest amount of sugar in a pop.
Delicious. It's
God,
delicious.
who loves orange pop? Who loves orange soda? Kyle loves orange soda.
All right.
I hope you have enough to work with.
Zach_Brown_art. Check out his stuff. It's very interesting. And
I just hope it gives
do you have a
nightmares.
show coming out?
I have a show in New York this Wednesday.
If you're in New York, where's it at?
It's at Stone Sparrow in Greenwich Village.
No big deal or nothing. So just get there if you're there.
These guys, if you're out there in New York and you just want to check out an art or show or you just gotta roll over there to Stone Sparrow and like check out like a painting.
There you
Like
go.
you just look at it.
There you go. Go to Stone Sparrow. Thanks for everyone listening. As always, brand new T-shirts on the podcast.
Don't be naked. Wear a T-shirt.
Wear a T-shirt. There you go. Thanks for listening. Call you right back.